Rome did not collapse in a single dramatic moment. It weakened slowly as financial decisions accumulated beneath the surface of power. The empire stood at the center of the known world, convinced that scale itself guaranteed stability. Expansion felt like strength, and new borders were celebrated as proof of permanent growth. Yet every new province demanded administrators, soldiers, roads, and grain shipments that quietly expanded fixed costs. Revenue rose, but obligations rose faster, binding the empire to commitments it could not easily reduce. Leaders mistook territorial size for financial resilience, assuming geography could absorb inefficiency. Distance complicated oversight, and corruption flourished in regions far from Rome's marble forums. Local governors extracted wealth aggressively, knowing supervision was slow and inconsistent. Citizens began associating imperial presence not with protection, but with heavier burdens. Still, expansion continued, because retreat would have signaled weakness to rivals and to Rome itself. When expenses outpaced income, officials searched for solutions that would avoid public alarm. One answer emerged in the mint, where coins could be altered without changing their appearance. Silver content was gradually reduced, each adjustment small enough to avoid immediate outrage. The face of authority remained stamped in metal, projecting continuity while value quietly thinned. At first, markets continued normally, because trust filled the invisible gap left by missing silver. Merchants accepted payment based on habit, not on chemical composition. But experienced traders noticed subtle differences in weight and tone. Suspicions spread in private conversations before it reached official acknowledgement. Once doubt entered circulation, every transaction carried a trace of hesitation. To compensate for weaker currency, tax demands intensified across provinces. Collectors enforced quotas with greater rigidity, pressured by targets set in Rome. Farmers and artisans found that more of their output vanished into imperial accounts. Productivity slowed, not from laziness, but from diminishing incentive. Authorities interpreted lower output as defiance rather than fatigue. Regulations multiplied, narrowing the space for voluntary exchange. Meanwhile, public spectacles continued, offering distraction inside massive arenas. The treasury financed entertainment to preserve morale and legitimacy. Crowds cheered, momentarily insulated from structural imbalance. Comfort within elite villas dulled awareness of strain beyond city walls. Decision-makers saw reports, but not empty stalls in provincial markets. Trade networks, once vibrant arteries of the Mediterranean, began losing momentum. Long-distance merchants demanded higher compensation to offset currency uncertainty. Some chose to trade less rather than navigate unpredictable valuations. Confidence, once assumed permanent, revealed itself as fragile. As trust weakened, people hoarded goods and reliable coins, reducing liquidity further. Each protective action made collective recovery more difficult. The empire responded with tighter control, fixing prices and binding workers to roles. Flexibility diminished just as adaptability became essential. Economic life grew rigid, unable to respond dynamically to stress. External pressures intensified, but internal fragility had already taken root. When invasions came, they struck a system financially exhausted. Military funding required even more extraction from a shrinking productive base. Communities felt distance from a center that no longer ensured stability. The illusion of permanence dissolved slowly, not in spectacle, but in erosion. What remained was the realization that trust had been the most valuable asset of all. Once that asset fractured, recovery required credibility greater than authority alone. Rome's decline was not a mystery of fate, but a sequence of rational decisions compounded over time. Empires fall when patterns go unexamined, and when short-term relief replaces structural repair.